It's November 20th, 1974, and I'm writing this just 3 days after the most terrifying and beautiful experience of my life. My name is Linda Mitchell. I'm 23 years old, and I just became a mother under circumstances I never could have imagined. I'm sitting here in my hospital bed, holding my perfect baby daughter Sarah, thinking about the stranger who appeared at exactly the right moment and changed everything about how this story ended. I need to write this down while every detail is still fresh, because I want Sarah to know someday about the angel who helped bring her into this world. Let me start from the beginning. My husband Tom has been working construction in Alaska since August, trying to make enough money for us to buy our first house before the baby came. The plan was for him to fly home 2 weeks before my due date, which the doctor calculated as November 25th. We had it all figured out. Tom would be here for the last 2 weeks of pregnancy. We'd go to the hospital together when labor started, and he'd be there to hold my hand through the whole experience. But babies don't always follow the plans we make for them. Yesterday morning, November 19th, I woke up feeling different. Not sick exactly, but restless and uncomfortable in ways I hadn't experienced during the previous 8 months. I was staying with my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, while Tom was away, sleeping in her spare bedroom so I wouldn't be alone in our little apartment if something happened. She's a sweet woman in her 60s, whose own children are grown and married, and she insisted on taking care of me during these final weeks. "Linda, honey, you seem a bit nervous today," Mrs. Patterson observed as I paced around her kitchen, unable to sit still or focus on anything for more than a few minutes. "Are you feeling all right? The baby isn't giving you too much trouble, is she?" I assured her I was fine, just anxious about Tom's arrival and excited about meeting our daughter soon. But deep down, I was starting to suspect that something was beginning to happen. By afternoon, the vague discomfort had developed into what I recognized as contractions. Mild at first, but coming regularly enough that I started timing them with the kitchen clock. 20 minutes apart, then 15, then 12. I called Dr. Morrison's office, but his nurse said these early contractions were normal, and I shouldn't worry unless they got much stronger or closer together. "First babies usually take their time," she assured me. "You probably have hours or even days before real labor begins." Mrs. Patterson made me a nice dinner and suggested we watch some television to help me relax. But by 8 o'clock, the contractions were coming every 8 minutes and getting strong enough that I had to stop talking and breathe through them. "Maybe we should call the doctor again," she suggested. But when I tried calling, the answering service said Dr. Morrison was delivering another baby and wouldn't be available until late that night. The moment I knew this baby was really coming happened around 9:30, when a contraction hit me so hard that I had to grab onto the kitchen counter and couldn't speak for nearly a minute. When it passed, I looked at Mrs. Patterson and saw the same realization in her eyes that I was feeling in my body. This wasn't false labor or practice contractions. This was the real thing, and it was happening fast. "Linda, dear, I think we need to get you to the hospital," Mrs. Patterson said, but then she remembered that her car has been in the shop for 2 weeks and won't be ready until Friday. "Oh my goodness, I completely forgot about the car situation. Let me call my daughter to come pick us up." But when she called Susan, there was no answer. They had gone to visit relatives in another state and wouldn't be back until the weekend. The next hour was a blur of increasingly painful contractions, frantic phone calls to other neighbors who weren't home or didn't have cars available, and growing panic as we realized that I might have to deliver this baby at home with no medical assistance. Mrs. Patterson found a taxi company in the phone book, but when she called, they said their only driver had gone home sick, and they couldn't send anyone until the next day. "Linda, I hate to suggest this, but do you think you could drive yourself to the hospital?" Mrs. Patterson asked around 11 o'clock, when my contractions were coming every 4 minutes and lasting nearly a minute each. "I know it's not ideal, but Memorial Hospital is only about 15 minutes away, and you know the route well. I would come with you, but I don't drive anymore after what happened with my eyesight last year." The idea of driving myself to the hospital while in active labor seemed insane, but what choice did I have? The contractions were getting stronger and closer together, and I was starting to feel pressure that suggested this baby was going to arrive whether we were ready or not. "Okay," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. "I can do this. It's only 15 minutes. I just need to time it between contractions and drive carefully." Mrs. Patterson helped me gather my hospital bag and called Memorial Hospital to let them know I was on my way and might need assistance when I arrived. She also insisted I take her umbrella because it had started raining, and she made me promise to drive slowly and pull over if the contractions got too bad to handle while driving. Before you continue this incredible story of courage, unexpected help, and the miracle of new life with us, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more amazing tales about the moments when strangers become angels and ordinary people discover extraordinary strength in times of crisis. Walking to my car at 11:30 at night, in the rain, while having contractions every 3 minutes, was one of the most frightening experiences I'd ever had. Each contraction made me have to stop and lean against something until it passed, and I was terrified that I might not make it to the hospital before the baby decided to arrive. But I also felt a strange sense of determination and strength that I didn't know I possessed. The first few minutes of driving went okay. I had timed my departure to start right after a contraction ended, giving me about 3 minutes before the next one hit. The roads were mostly empty because of the late hour and the weather, so I didn't have to worry about heavy traffic. But as I reached the halfway point to the hospital, the contractions started coming faster and stronger than ever before. I was stopped at a red light on Main Street when a contraction hit that was so intense I couldn't help but cry out. The pain was overwhelming, and for the first time, I felt real fear that this baby might be born right there in my car. The light turned green, but I couldn't move because the contraction wasn't finished, and I was gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. That's when I heard a gentle tapping on my passenger window. Through the rain and the car window, I could see a woman about my mother's age, wearing a nurse's uniform and holding an umbrella. She was gesturing for me to roll down the window, and something about her calm, professional demeanor made me feel safe enough to let her approach. "Honey, are you in labor?" she asked when I managed to roll the window down a few inches. "I'm a nurse at Memorial Hospital, and I was driving home from my shift when I saw you stopped here looking distressed. My name is Grace Williams, and I think you might need some help getting to the hospital safely." I nodded, unable to speak as another contraction was building. "I'm trying to get to Memorial," I managed to say between breaths. "But the contractions are coming so fast now, and I'm scared I won't make it." Grace's response was exactly what I needed to hear in that moment of panic and pain. "Don't you worry about a thing, sweetheart," she said in the most reassuring voice I'd ever heard. "I'm going to help you get there safely. Can you unlock your passenger door so I can get in with you? I'll ride with you to the hospital and make sure you and your baby are okay." Having Grace Williams get into my car at that moment felt like divine intervention. As soon as she settled into the passenger seat, I felt my panic begin to subside and my confidence return. Here was someone who knew exactly what was happening, who had probably helped dozens of women through situations like this, and who was calm and competent in ways that made me believe everything was going to be all right. "First things first, let's get you moved over to the passenger seat so I can drive," Grace said, her voice steady and professional. "You shouldn't be trying to operate a vehicle while you're this far along in labor. It's not safe for you or for other drivers." The process of switching seats while having contractions every 2 or 3 minutes was awkward and uncomfortable, but Grace helped me through it with patience and gentle encouragement. "Now then," she said, as she adjusted the driver's seat and mirrors. "Let's get you to the hospital where you belong. How far apart are your contractions now? And when did this labor begin?" I tried to give her the timeline while breathing through another wave of pain, and I could see her mentally calculating how much time we probably had before the baby arrived. "You're doing beautifully, honey," Grace said, as she started driving toward the hospital. "I've been a labor and delivery nurse for 15 years, and I can tell you that you're handling this like a champion." Your baby is going to be just fine. And so are you. Is this your first child? When I nodded, she smiled warmly. First babies are always special. Do you know if you're having a boy or a girl? Talking with Grace during the drive helped distract me from the intensity of the contractions and made me feel connected to someone who understood what I was experiencing. She told me about her own 3 children, all of whom she had delivered at Memorial Hospital, and about some of the memorable births she had assisted with during her nursing career. Every baby has their own personality right from the moment they're born, she said. Some come into the world quietly. Others announce their arrival with a good, strong cry. All of them are miracles. Grace, I'm so scared, I admitted as we got closer to the hospital. My husband is supposed to be here, and I don't know what I'm doing, and what if something goes wrong? Her response was exactly what I needed to hear in that moment of vulnerability and fear. Linda, let me tell you something I've learned from helping hundreds of women bring their babies into this world, she said, reaching over to squeeze my hand between contractions. You already know everything you need to know. Your body knows how to do this. Your baby knows how to be born, and the doctors and nurses at the hospital know how to help if you need any assistance. But mostly, this is something that women have been doing successfully for thousands of years, and you're going to do it successfully too. When we arrived at Memorial Hospital, Grace took charge of the situation in ways that made everything proceed smoothly, despite the urgency of my condition. She parked right at the emergency entrance, helped me out of the car, and immediately got the attention of the staff inside. I'm Grace Williams from Labor and Delivery, she announced to the receptionist. This young lady is in active labor and needs to be taken upstairs immediately. The wheelchair ride to the maternity ward was a blur of hospital corridors, elevator rides, and Grace's steady presence beside me, holding my hand and offering encouragement. You're almost there, sweetheart, she kept saying. Just a little bit longer, and you'll be in a proper delivery room with everything you need to bring this baby safely into the world. Dr. Morrison was already at the hospital delivering the other baby, and he came to examine me as soon as we reached the labor and delivery unit. Mrs. Mitchell, it looks like your daughter has decided not to wait for her father to get home, he said with a gentle smile. But everything looks normal and healthy. You're about 8 centimeters dilated, which means you'll probably be ready to push within the next hour or 2. Grace stayed with me throughout the entire labor and delivery, even though her shift had ended hours earlier, and she should have been home sleeping. When I asked her why she was staying, she said, "Honey, I was meant to find you on that street tonight. Sometimes God puts us exactly where we need to be to help each other, and there's no place I'd rather be right now than right here helping you welcome your baby." The final stage of labor was intense and challenging, but having Grace there made all the difference. She coached me through the breathing techniques, held my hand during the pushing, and provided the emotional support that Tom would have given if he had been able to be there. You're doing perfectly, she kept saying. Your baby is almost here. Just a few more pushes and you'll be holding your daughter. Sarah Elizabeth Mitchell was born at 4:17 a.m. on November 20th, 1974, weighing 6 pounds, 12 ounces, and measuring 19 inches long. She came into the world with a lusty cry that announced her healthy arrival to everyone in the delivery room. The moment Dr. Morrison placed her on my chest, I felt a love so overwhelming and immediate that I started crying tears of joy and relief. She's perfect, Grace whispered, tears in her own eyes as she looked at my beautiful daughter. Look at that head of dark hair and those tiny fingers, and the way she's looking around like she's taking inventory of her new world. She's absolutely perfect, Linda. You did such a wonderful job bringing her here safely. The hours that followed were filled with the standard post-delivery procedures, cleaning and weighing the baby, delivering the placenta, getting stitched up where necessary. But Grace stayed through all of it, making sure I understood what was happening, and that both Sarah and I were comfortable and healthy. She helped me with the first feeding, showed me how to change a diaper, and answered all my nervous new mother questions with patience and expertise. Grace, I don't know how to thank you for what you've done for us, I said, as the sun started coming up, and she finally prepared to leave the hospital. You saved us. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't stopped to help me last night. Her response was so typical of the generous, selfless person she had shown herself to be. Linda, sweetie, helping you and Sarah come together safely was a privilege and a joy, she said, giving me a gentle hug. You would have been fine without me. Women are stronger than they know, and mothers are the strongest of all. But I'm grateful I was in the right place at the right time to be part of your story. Before she left, Grace wrote down her phone number and address, insisting that I call her if I had any questions or concerns during the first few weeks at home with the baby. New mothers need support and encouragement, she said. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything at all, even if it's just someone to tell you that you're doing a good job. The next day, when Tom finally got through on the hospital phone after receiving the telegram about Sarah's early arrival, his first question was whether we were both okay, and his second was how I had managed to get to the hospital by myself. When I told him about Grace Williams and how she had appeared at exactly the right moment and stayed with me through the entire delivery, he was as amazed and grateful as I was. Linda, I can't believe a complete stranger would do something so generous and selfless, Tom said, his voice emotional even over the crackling long-distance connection. I'm going to find a way to thank her properly when I get home. She gave us the greatest gift possible. She made sure you and Sarah were safe when I couldn't be there to take care of you myself. Tom caught the first available flight home and arrived at the hospital the next afternoon, rushing into our room with flowers and tears in his eyes. The moment he held Sarah for the first time, seeing his face light up with wonder and love, I knew that all the fear and uncertainty of the past few days had been worth it. Our family was complete, and we were all healthy and together. She's beautiful, Linda, Tom whispered as he cradled our daughter. She looks just like you, but I think she has my stubborn chin. And you, my amazing wife, are the bravest, strongest woman I've ever known. I'm so proud of you for handling everything by yourself and bringing our daughter safely into the world. During our remaining days in the hospital, several nurses mentioned how unusual it was for Grace Williams to stay past her shift to help with the delivery, especially for someone who wasn't officially her patient. Grace is known for going above and beyond, explained Nancy, one of the day shift nurses. But staying all night with you was exceptional even for her. She must have felt a special connection to your situation. When we brought Sarah home from the hospital, Grace called to check on us and ended up becoming one of our closest family friends. She visited regularly during Sarah's first few months, helping me navigate the challenges of new motherhood and sharing advice based on her years of experience with babies and children. Tom insisted on taking her out for a nice dinner to thank her properly, but she said the best thanks would be watching Sarah grow up healthy and happy. You know, Linda, Grace told me during one of her visits when Sarah was about 3 months old, I need to confess something to you. That night when I found you in labor, I had been having a difficult evening myself. I had just finished a shift where we lost a baby during delivery, something that doesn't happen often. But when it does, it's devastating for everyone involved. I was driving home feeling sad and discouraged about my work. She continued, When I saw you there in your car, clearly in distress, it felt like God was giving me an opportunity to remember why I became a nurse in the first place, to help people during their most vulnerable moments, and to be part of bringing new life into the world. Helping you and Sarah that night didn't just save your delivery. It restored my faith in my calling and reminded me that most stories have happy endings. The friendship that developed between our families became one of the most treasured relationships in our lives. Grace's children welcomed us warmly, and her husband Robert became like a father figure to Tom, who had lost his own dad when he was young. Our family spent holidays together, celebrated birthdays and milestones together, and supported each other through both joyful times and difficult challenges. Sarah grew up knowing Grace as Aunt Grace and understanding that this special woman had helped bring her into the world during a scary night when Mama needed extra help. As Sarah got older, she loved hearing the story of her dramatic arrival and would ask Grace to tell her version of events, marveling at how everything had worked out perfectly, despite the frightening circumstances. "Aunt Grace, do you think you were supposed to find my mama that night?" Sarah asked during one family gathering when she was about 7 years old. "Like, maybe it was meant to happen that way?" Grace's answer was something that stayed with all of us for years afterward. "Sarah, sweetheart, I think there are moments in life when people are put exactly where they need to be to help each other," Grace said, pulling Sarah onto her lap. "I was driving home from work at just the right time, on just the right street, to see your mama when she needed help the most. Some people might call that coincidence, but I like to think it was something more special than that." The impact of that night continued to influence our family's values and choices for years to come. Tom and I made a commitment to look for opportunities to help others the way Grace had helped us, whether that meant volunteering at the hospital, helping neighbors in need, or simply being attentive to moments when someone might need assistance or kindness. When Sarah was old enough to understand, we told her that part of the reason we named her Sarah Elizabeth was because Sarah means princess, and Elizabeth means God's promise, and that her Aunt Grace had helped us understand that every baby is both a precious gift and a promise of hope for the future. The annual tradition we established of celebrating November 20th as not just Sarah's birthday but also as Grace Day became one of our family's most meaningful customs. Each year, we would have dinner together and share stories about acts of kindness we had witnessed or participated in, recognizing that Grace's generosity had inspired us to live more generously ourselves. Grace Williams became Sarah's godmother and remained actively involved in her life through childhood, adolescence, and into adulthood. When Sarah graduated from nursing school, inspired partly by Grace's example of service and caring, Grace was in the front row, tears of pride streaming down her face as Sarah received her degree and prepared to begin her own career helping others. "I always knew you would be a nurse," Grace told Sarah after the graduation ceremony. "From the moment you were born, I could see the compassion and strength in you that would make you a natural caregiver. Your parents raised you to understand that we're all here to help each other, and now you'll be able to do that professionally." Looking back on that terrifying night in November 1974, I understand now that what seemed like a crisis at the time was actually an opportunity for Grace to enter our lives in the most literal way possible. The stranger who helped me wasn't really a stranger at all. She was an angel who appeared at exactly the right moment and changed our family's story forever. The lesson I learned from driving to the hospital alone in labor wasn't just about my own strength and capability, though I certainly discovered reserves of courage I didn't know I possessed. The more important lesson was about human kindness, about the way people can appear in our lives when we need them most, and about how acts of generosity create connections that last for generations. Sarah is now a mother herself, and when she went into labor with her first child, Grace Williams, then in her 70s but still sharp and caring, was right there in the delivery room, holding Sarah's hand the same way she had held mine 30 years earlier. The circle of love and care that began with a chance encounter on a rainy street continued into the next generation, proving that some blessings multiply rather than diminish when they're shared. The stranger who helped me that night taught me that angels don't always have wings. Sometimes they have stethoscopes, warm smiles, and the wisdom to appear exactly when and where they're needed most. Grace Williams didn't just help me deliver my baby safely. She showed me what it means to live with an open heart and a willingness to serve others, even when it's inconvenient or unexpected. The story I want Sarah to remember, and the story I want to share with anyone who will listen, is that in our darkest moments, help often comes from the most unexpected sources. The key is being open to receiving that help and then looking for opportunities to provide the same kind of assistance to others who might need it. Grace taught me that we're all connected, that we're all responsible for each other's well-being, and that the greatest gifts we can give are our presence, our care, and our willingness to step into someone else's moment of need with love and competence.